There's a quiet crisis happening right now in the American food system. Not a headline, not a trending topic, but a slow, creeping collapse happening one shuttered storefront at a time. If you've walked past an empty grocery store lately, lights off, carts chained together, a faded open sign still hanging like a bad joke, you've seen the warning signs. Food deserts aren't coming, they're here. And in 2026, they're about to get worse. Because several major grocery chains, from bargain stores to big name brands, are quietly closing locations. Not with announcements, not with press releases, but with silence. Empty shelves, locked doors, for lease banners flapping like surrender flags. Why? Shrinking margins, rising theft, sky-high rent, labor shortages, corporate consolidation, and the slow death of the middle-class shopper these chains once depended on. Tonight, we're diving into 5 grocery chains shutting down stores across America in 2026, why they're collapsing, which communities get hit hardest, and how these closures create food deserts in places that were already hanging by a thread. If you think grocery shopping is expensive now, wait until the nearest store disappears. Chapter 1. Dollar General, the rural lifeline that's breaking. Dollar General wasn't supposed to fail. It was the one store that seemed immune to everything. Pandemics, inflation, recessions, even the disappearance of half the American middle class. For years, it expanded like a weed in asphalt, popping up on rural highways, dirt roads, crossroads, tiny towns with one flashing light and a population smaller than a football roster. Dollar General didn't care if a place had no Starbucks, no hospital, no stoplight. If there were people breathing, Dollar General put up a store. And then suddenly, in 2026, something shifted. Quietly, no drama, no statement, just doors locked, shelves stripped, carts zip-tied together. A yellow and black sign fading under the sun like a tombstone for something that used to matter. Word spreads the way all small-town news spreads. Through whispers at the post office, through neighbors seeing a truck haul away the last pallets, through someone driving by at 7 a.m. and noticing the parking lot looks wrong. For years, Dollar General was more than a store. It was the only place within 10, 20, sometimes 40 miles to buy bread, milk, toothpaste, pet food, painkillers, detergent, everything a household needs just to function. When a Dollar General closes in a rural area, it isn't an inconvenience, it's a collapse. And that collapse starts with stories that all sound the same. A manager quits. A skeleton crew tries to run a store meant for 10 employees with 3 exhausted part-timers. Theft explodes, not because people are greedy, but because they're broke. Delivery trucks start skipping weeks. Corporate sends urgent new policies instead of help. Then the store looks messy, aisles half-stocked, freezer humming weirdly, lights flickering, and everyone feels it. The store is dying. Behind the scenes, the truth is brutal. Profit margins have been shaved razor thin. Shrink, the corporate word for theft, damage, and lost inventory, has doubled in some regions. Rent keeps rising on buildings that were supposed to be cheap. Wages don't keep workers. And the stores become unmanageable. Customers cut spending because their wallets are empty. And Dollar General, once the hero of rural America, becomes the newest casualty of the economy it relied on. Drive through Mississippi, Oklahoma, Alabama, West Virginia, rural Missouri, the Dakotas, you'll see them. Darkened storefronts, signs peeled by weather, shopping carts rusting under the overhang. Sometimes the sign stays up because the landlord can't afford to remove it. Sometimes the inside still has price tags on the walls, abandoned like a time capsule of a store that served everyone until it couldn't survive serving anyone. And what happens to the towns? They become food deserts overnight. The nearest grocery might be an hour away. People rely on gas stations with prices that feel like punishment. Children grow up eating canned soup because fresh food is something you pass on the highway, not buy at home. Seniors who used to walk to Dollar General now must drive distances they can barely manage. Everything stretches thinner: money, time, resilience. A closed Dollar General isn't just a store shutting down, it's a warning, a signal flare that something in the economy has snapped, a reminder that rural America is living on the edge, held up by businesses that are running out of strength. strength. This chain wasn't supposed to break, but it is. Quietly, quickly, and the towns relying on it are breaking with it. Chapter 2. Save-A-Lot, the budget grocery chain on life support. Save-A-Lot was once the scrappy underdog of American groceries, the chain that survived by being smaller, leaner, cheaper, and closer to the neighborhood's big box stores ignored. It was the place where a family on a tight budget could walk in with crumpled bills and walk out with a full cart. No loyalty cards, no flashy aisles, no overpriced organic displays. Just food, cheap and simple. But in 2026, the chain is shrinking like a puddle in August heat, closing stores quietly, one after another, slipping out of communities that depended on it like oxygen. If you want to understand how deep the problem goes, all you have to do is visit a Save-A-Lot at the edge of a city. You'll see it immediately. Dim lights, half-stock shelves, a produce section that looks exhausted, a freezer that hums like a dying generator. Customers wander the aisles with that familiar expression of resignation because there's nowhere else to go. When the store shuts down, they won't complain. They'll grieve, because in many urban neighborhoods and struggling rural towns, Save-A-Lot wasn't just an option. It was the only option that didn't require a car, a long bus ride, or prices that turned basic groceries into a luxury. The chain's collapse didn't happen overnight. For years, Save-A-Lot operated on thin margins, thinner than almost any grocer in the country. Its business model depended on ultra-low overhead, small stores, private label foods, and customers with no better choices. But as rent rose, wages climbed, freight costs soared, and inflation stomped through the grocery industry like a bulldozer, the chain couldn't hold the line anymore. Franchises, many independently owned, began to buckle. Corporate support shrank. Some stores changed hands so many times that no one knew who was in charge. Others were sold off, stripped down, patched up, reopened, then closed again like someone was repeatedly trying to resuscitate a business that no longer had a pulse. Walk through parts of Detroit, Cleveland, Memphis, St. Louis, Baltimore, Flint, Louisville, and you'll see the aftermath. A Save-A-Lot with boarded windows, another with an eviction notice taped crooked on the door, another where the shopping carts sit abandoned in a weedy parking lot as if waiting for customers who will never come back. In some cities, 3 or 4 locations closed within months, leaving massive holes in neighborhoods already starved for resources. And when Save-A-Lot leaves, the change is immediate. People start relying on corner stores selling overpriced canned goods and snacks. Single parents stretch meals thinner. Seniors skip fresh produce entirely because there's no cheap option left. Diets get worse. Health outcomes get worse. Budgets collapse. Food deserts expand outward, swallowing entire blocks that used to have a fighting chance. Then there's the emotional side, the quiet sense of abandonment. Save-A-Lot stores weren't pretty, they weren't polished, but they felt accessible, human, familiar, and now they vanish without announcements, without farewell signs, without any explanation at all. One day the lights are on and the next the doors don't open. A whole neighborhood stops at the entrance like someone has stolen something intangible but vital. In a country where groceries are already eating a bigger slice of monthly income than ever before, losing a budget chain hits differently. It's not about inconvenience. It's about survival. Save-A-Lot's decline isn't just a business story, it's a neighborhood story, a poverty story, a warning about what happens when America's thin rope of affordability finally snaps. And the next chain on the list, it proves that even the so-called healthy grocery boom isn't immune to the financial pressure crushing the food industry. Sprouts is next, and its collapse says something unsettling about the future of fresh food. Chapter 3, Sprouts, the healthy grocery model that can't survive inflation. Sprouts was supposed to be the future, the bright, airy farmer's market in a strip mall store where you could get organic grapes, bulk oats, turmeric shots, and salmon that looked like it just filed its taxes early. For years, Sprouts grew like a lifestyle brand on steroids. Millennials loved it, suburban moms worshipped it. And anyone trying to eat clean walked through those sliding doors like they were entering a nutritional cathedral. But in 2026, something uncomfortable is happening. Sprouts locations are going dark, quietly, softly, no headlines, no drama, a store here, a store there. A slow retreat from neighborhoods that once saw the chain as the healthier, friendlier alternative to the grocery giants. You don't even notice it at first, until you drive past a familiar building and realize the green and orange sign is gone, replaced by empty windows reflecting a parking lot with no cars. Sprouts' problem is simple and brutal. The math stopped working. Healthy food is expensive. Organic supply chains wobble under pressure. Rents have skyrocketed in every major metro area, and Sprouts, with its smaller footprint and niche inventory, couldn't scale into affordability fast enough to keep pace with the cost of simply existing. The store that once branded itself as a cheaper alternative to Whole Foods somehow became just as expensive without the global Amazon machine propping it up. You can feel the unraveling when you walk into one of the struggling stores. The produce section is smaller than you remember. Prices are higher than they should be. The bulk bins don't have the same regular traffic. The bakery smells less alive, and the aisles feel like they're holding their breath. Refrigerators carry fewer SKUs, staff look stretched thin, customers walk by with baskets instead of carts, grabbing a few items and leaving quickly, like they're guilty of even being there. But the closures hit certain communities harder than others. Sprouts didn't plant itself in wealthy districts where people casually buy $12 juice shots for fun. It built stores in the middle, modest income suburbs, transitional neighborhoods, areas hungry for fresh produce but priced out of Whole Foods, and geographically abandoned by traditional supermarkets. In those spots, Sprouts wasn't a luxury. It was the only place within miles where you could get decent fruit that wasn't bruised, wilted, or sitting under a flickering convenience store light. When Sprouts pulls out, those neighborhoods lose the only semi-affordable, semi-accessible source of fresh, healthy food they had left. Parents scramble. Seniors take longer bus rides. People slip back into the fast food cycle because it's the only thing nearby that's predictable. The irony is harsh. And the chain built around wellness unintentionally leaves food deserts in its wake. Corporate statements blame inflation, real estate costs, shifting consumer priorities, and portfolio optimization, which is the corporate way of saying we tried, but this store doesn't make money anymore. Behind the scenes, Sprouts is shrinking into a tighter footprint, wealthier zip codes, booming suburbs, areas where customers won't blink at paying $8 for a head of lettuce. The quiet closures tell a much louder truth. The American grocery landscape is no longer stable enough for niche, healthy stores to survive in working-class neighborhoods. The idea of a vibrant, affordable health food chain was beautiful, but reality, 2026 reality, doesn't care about beautiful ideas. Sprouts wasn't just a store, it was a symbol of access, identity, and a certain kind of aspirational living, and now those aspirations are disappearing behind darkened windows and locked doors. Next up, a chain much bigger, much older, and much more tangled in corporate power. Safeway and Albertsons aren't just closing stores, they're rearranging the entire grocery map. Chapter 4, Safeway, Albertsons, the mega merger casualties. Safeway and Albertsons have been grocery pillars for decades. Big, bright, familiar stores with bakery bread that actually smells like bread, deli counters that feel like controlled chaos, and aisles full of everything from canned soup to Friday night desperation frozen pizza. These chains were supposed to be stable, corporate, predictable, the kind of stores that don't disappear. They just remodel every 15 years and pretend it's revolutionary. But in 2026, something unsettling is happening behind the automatic doors. Safeway and Albertsons aren't just closing locations, they're rearranging the entire grocery map like someone shaking a snow globe and saying, let's see what survives. Stores quietly vanish. Whole regions lose their only mid-price grocery option. Locations get sold off, rebranded, consolidated, or simply left to rot under flickering fluorescent lights. The heart of the collapse is the looming mega merger, a corporate chess game years in the making. Executives talk about efficiencies, portfolio alignment, market optimization. Shoppers see something else: abandoned buildings, empty parking lots, voided neighborhood anchors. The merger means duplicate stores. Two locations too close together become redundant assets. Redundant assets become closures. Closures become food deserts, and food deserts become realities that no press release will ever acknowledge. Walk into a struggling Safeway, and you can feel the slow death creeping in. The shelves look dotted instead of full. The produce feels tired, like it's been practicing yoga poses for too long. The checkout lanes stand half lit because corporate decided those bulbs aren't operationally essential. Workers look worried because rumors always travel faster than official announcements. Customers push carts with that uneasy awareness that something is off, something is shrinking, something is ending. The closures land hardest in the suburbs, the older ones, the ones that grew before everything turned into luxury townhomes and artisanal pet bakeries. These communities rely on one or two full-service groceries, not a forest of competing chains. When a Safeway or Albertsons disappears, it isn't like losing a trendy store. It's like losing a neighborhood organ. Seniors suddenly have to travel farther. Families switch to higher-priced markets. The little ecosystems around the store, pharmacies, dry cleaners, tiny nail salons, start to fade too. Then there are the rural towns, the places where the Safeway sign was the only recognizable national brand for miles. When those stores close, the loss is catastrophic. You don't get a replacement. You get empty shelves and boarded windows and a parking lot turning into a weed sanctuary. People start driving 30, 40, 60 minutes for groceries. Gas prices add insult to injury. Nutrition becomes convenience. Convenience becomes survival, and in the cities, entire neighborhoods lose their only decent grocery and fall back on overpriced corner stores that sell milk for the price of a movie ticket and fruit that looks like it survived a bar fight. Safeway was often the midline, cheaper than trendy stores, better stocked than discount chains. Without it, everything tilts toward scarcity. Corporate spokespeople will never say it out loud, but the truth sits in every darkened storefront. The merger isn't about feeding people, it's about feeding shareholders. Stores aren't closing because communities don't need them. They're closing because spreadsheets say the land is worth more than the groceries. And so Safeway and Albertsons fade quietly. Not with explosions, not with headlines, but with slow dissolving, one shuttered bakery at a time, one empty deli counter at a time. One community waking up to a dark parking lot where their grocery store used to glow. And if this feels big, wait until you see the next chain, the one no one expected to retreat. Walmart's smallest format stores are disappearing, and the fallout is brutal. Chapter 5, Walmart Neighborhood Market, The Closures No One Sees. Coming for years, Walmart Neighborhood Market was the quiet backbone of low-income suburbs. Not the giant supercenters with 20 checkout lanes and a parking lot big enough to host a small music festival. No, these were the compact green sign stores tucked between apartment complexes and bus stops. Smaller, faster, easier, designed for the parts of America that didn't need a mega mall. They just needed groceries. And that's why the 2026 closures hit like a punch. No warning, no press releases, no corporate goodbye letters taped to the doors. One morning people wake up and the lights are off, the carts are chained, the pharmacy window is dark, and there's a sign that simply says store closed. It looks temporary, it feels temporary, but it isn't. The store isn't coming back. Walmart neighborhood markets began disappearing for the same reason every other chain on this list is shrinking. The economics of groceries are collapsing, margins have evaporated, labor costs climbed, theft rose, suppliers raised prices, delivery costs doubled, and Walmart, the most efficient retail machine ever built, looked at its smaller stores and realized something terrifying. Even it couldn't keep these little groceries profitable anymore. Inside the final weeks of a failing neighborhood market, you can feel the unraveling like static in the air. Shelves that used to overflow with produce start looking thin, like a smile stretched too wide. The bakery shrinks its offerings down to a few lonely racks of bread that nobody wants to be the last to buy. Employees begin whispering to regulars, "I don't know what's happening, but something's happening." Customers feel it too. The vibe shifts. The aisles echo differently. The store carries itself like it's trying not to cry. In low-income suburbs, the fallout is instant and vicious. These stores weren't luxury conveniences, they were lifelines. Affordable groceries, consistent stock, pharmacies that accepted every insurance card imaginable, cheap produce that didn't require driving across town. When a Walmart neighborhood market closes, you don't lose a store, you lose access, you lose options. You lose the last affordable place within walking distance. The gap left behind gets filled by one thing: higher prices. Small stores charge more. Gas stations charge obscene amounts for milk and eggs. Delivery apps become impossible because of fees. And for seniors, single parents, bus riders, disabled residents, anyone without a car, life gets immediately harder. Groceries become a logistical puzzle. Meals get simpler, cheaper, less fresh. Diets collapse back into survival mode because that's what food deserts do. They don't just remove stores, they remove choices. Older suburbs of Atlanta, Houston, Phoenix, Orlando, Charlotte, Chicago, and Las Vegas feel the wound the deepest. These areas depended on Walmart's smaller footprint. They weren't getting new supermarkets, they weren't getting new infrastructure. Walmart was the support beam holding up the entire local food economy, and now that beam is cracking. The irony is bitter. Neighborhood markets were built as a community-friendly alternative. Walmart's attempt at being small, local, human. And those are the very stores corporate is now carving out of the portfolio like they're disposable organs. The closures don't make headlines because they're not glamorous enough, not dramatic enough, not big enough to catch mainstream attention. But for the people who live near them, the loss feels seismic. Picture this. You walk up to the store on a Monday morning to pick up a few things. The sliding doors don't open, the lights are off, a paper sign is taped to the glass, fluttering in the breeze. No explanation, no farewell, just silence. Behind the glass, you can still see the aisles, the registers, the pharmacy counter, a whole world frozen mid-breath. That's the moment people realize something deeper than a store has died. A piece of stability is gone, and in 2026, those pieces are disappearing faster than anyone expected.